Welcome back, this is Goku Sun DBZ, of course, as always, and this is a review for Smallville Season 2. So, with that said, first we have Episode 1, which is called Vortex. Vortex starts out where, of course, Season 1 final episode left off with, of course, the Twister coming down and Lana trapped in a truck which is getting swallowed by the Twister. Obviously, Clark gets involved to save. We have also something going on at the manor, or rather, the Luthor mansion, if you will, where we have a tornado coming down and stuff falls on Lionel Luthor, and we see him get hurt, ends up getting rushed to hospital, damaged, but at first it looks like Lex is not going to help Lionel, and thus we get a few of the first glimpses of the true darkness within Lex, the true Lex Luthor. That is really nice getting to see the first glimpses into the true Lex, which I quite enjoy. But anyways, end up at the hospital. He ends up saving his dad, and in order to try to save his health and stuff, ends up, surgery goes through. He ends up life being saved, but it comes out Lionel is, of course, blind. Though that won't remain around forever, obviously. But it helps add in to a little bit of the story structure going forward into Season 2. Also, of course, after the storm is over and stuff, Clark denies that, obviously, he saved Lana because he does not want her to know about it. Also, at the very end of the episode, Lex quickly tells, or rather Lionel tells Lex that he should have just let him die because he does not want to be, like, crippled, I guess you could say, because being blind stuff would be a sign of weakness. And Lionel is all about that sign of power and domination. And you know this from the way he carries himself. He is a true businessman, a true corporate businessman, which refers to all business affairs and stuff to like Roman, Greek history. And it makes a lot of sense because you can really compare a lot of stuff in business culture to actual history from a certain perspective. Also, in episode 2, we end up having also some different stuff is revealed. For instance, we have, the episode is called Heat. Clark ends up gaining a new ability, heat vision. And that is connected to, I guess you could say, through sexual means, rather. So obviously that's how heat vision is triggered. Kind of interesting. And also has to do with this woman, a substitute teacher, which you find out is already Lex's engaged to her, ready to be married and stuff. Find out though, because that teacher was infected by meteor rocks, and the meteor rocks like fell and stuff when the meteor shower happened. Obviously, when she was in the heat of the moment, obviously. So that explains her ability. She is able to basically manipulate and control a guy through trying to mirror the correct scientific term. But anyways, is able to manipulate and control men easily enough. And that's how she was able to end up the widow of multiple men through different marriages. So, anyway, things lead to another. Clark gains control over his heat vision. They end up stopping that crazed woman from killing Lex, luckily. Next, we have the next episode, Duplicate. For a reason, because we see at the very beginning that somebody went off to war, of course, in the end of season 1, is over in the Middle East. Ends up coming under fire and stuff, and we end up seeing what believed to be him coming back and returning to Lana, but we find out that he is in fact Tina Guerrero, somebody from season 1, which was meteor rock infected and can shapeshift into other people, and obviously transformed into him. In the first season, she wanted to replace Lana, but she ended up apparently falling in love and having feelings for Lana. A lot of people tend to fall for Lana, if you've noticed. That's something you'll notice as the seasons go on. A very much continuous thing. With that said, but it's interesting to say the least. Then you have episode 4, which is one of my top 5 favorite episodes of season 2. Red. Red is the introduction to the red meteor rock, of course, which affects Clark on a emotional and psychological level, rather than a physical level like the green meteor rock, obviously. So, craziness and nuttiness ensues. Also, of course, we end up also in a previous episode, Clark reveals actually his secret to his good friend Pete Ross. Things went a little crazy at first, but end up proven to be worthy of knowing Clark's secret, which is a good thing. Also, you have episode 5, Nocturnal, which has this boy that was treated through I guess you could say, a certain pharmaceutical test trials and stuff, controlled by, who else? Luthor Corp. Ends up affecting him. He is very much, he's locked in the basement by his parents and stuff. At first we thought maybe physically abused and stuff, obviously, but when Clark and Pete Ross try to rescue this kid, when he gets out in the sunlight, he starts to transform and gain super strength and everything. So, obviously, interesting side effect. Rather than something like a vampire or something, instead the strength gives him super abilities, but also turns his eyes black, like demons from Supernatural. Episode 6, Redux. Not too much to say for this episode for me. Episode 7 is interesting, Lineage. Which is about this crazy woman that believes Clark is her long-lost son, and come to find out she had a love child with none other than Lionel Luthor, and so thinks that that is her child, but come to find out is not. Next, we have episode 8, Ryan, which was, of course, Kim Meteor Rock infected, which has the ability to remind us stuff from episode, I believe it was 17 of season 1, Stray. Of course, we see, unfortunately, Ryan is held against his will by this scientific fringe level science and stuff involved in psychological and like ESP, like different things involved in the mind, many different processes and theories, which is why Brian ended up there. Next we have, which is actually a pretty good and somewhat sad episode, the way it ended, of course, with the death of Brian, because what caused his ability was a tumor, which ended up killing him in the end, unfortunately. But you could see, like, this also helped show a little bit of growth to the character of Clark in this episode, I think. Showed, like, him being affected more on an emotional level than many other characters so far introduced in this series. Episode 9, I don't have too much to say. Episode 10 is probably my number one favorite episode from Season 2, hands down. So it's another one of my top 5 favorite episodes. It's called Skinwalkers. Clark ends up by accident falling into a unknown set of caves by an ancient Native American tribe called the Kawachi. And so, it comes across this beautiful girl who was sent there by her grandfather researching and finding these ancient paintings and stuff on the wall, and the fact that also Clark notices a lot of this stuff sounds like not too crazy about this character hero they believe in called Naman, which came drained from like a rain of fire from the sky, and obviously also would have the strength of 10 men, would be able to shoot fire from his eyes. Many things linking to Clark. Also found like a thing in the wall which was the shape of the key to, of course, his spaceship. So it's quite interesting. We find out more, and all this stuff was set in place by Kryptonians hundreds of years prior. It was taught by this one elder that also that apparently the Kawachi were born from one of their ancestors and apparently had a child with one of the alien species, obviously the Kryptonians, and that's how some ended up with the ability to shapeshift into skinwalkers, which are people who could transform into wolves and stuff. If you think that sounds crazy, it's actually in real Native American mythology and culture. I recommend looking it up. So a lot of what they took for the Kawachi is very much based on actual tribes, specifically tribes that I know of located originally in like Nevada and areas in the Southwest. It's quite interesting, but it's fascinating. A really great episode. I just really enjoyed it. And the introduction of the cave, which will become a key element for the second half of Season 2 and become a key element throughout Season 3 and even into Season 4. So that's quite interesting. But then we have Episode 11, nothing too special. Then you have Episode 12, Insurgency. You have Episode 13, Suspect, which is an interesting one, where Lionel gets shot, and it was tried to be set up like Jonathan Kent did the murder, or attempted murder. Come to find out, of course, as the episode goes on, we learn that the sheriff, which is a lifelong friend of actually Jonathan Kent, was the one who attempted to kill Lionel because Lionel tried to blackmail him in order to get information and stuff. So yeah, Lionel able to corrupt basically anyone, but it's still an interesting episode from the twists and turns on the theories and stuff. You're not quite sure what's going to happen. Episode 14, Rush. Nothing too much to say about this episode. Episode 15, Prodigy. We see, of course, that believed to be in Episode 7, Lineage, as I mentioned, that woman who thought Clark was her son. Come to find out, he is actually still alive and well, and located in places like Edge City. And Lex ends up rescuing, but come to find out, Lex found him and stuff, trying to do the way bylaws and stuff were set up with Luthor Corp. Any actual heir would get immediately like 10% shares in Luthor Corp, and he wanted to use that to overturn and overpower Lionel, and obviously in the power struggle Lex is having with Lionel. But Lionel, in fact, found him, Lucas is his name, Lucas Luthor, first, and so manipulated him. But anyway, things turn and change throughout the episode. It's quite interesting. But we see Lucas is very much a sociopath. But no surprise, obviously, he got that from his dad, Lionel. Next up, we have episode 16, Fever, which is an episode where Clark actually gets sick because of a meteor infected like dust and stuff. And that affected both his mom, Martha, and him. And that really also scares, we see a growing closeness between Clark and Lana. And unfortunately, a moment like when Clark is sick, Chloe reveals her feelings and stuff for Clark. And what does Clark say in his delirium? One word, Lana. Obviously that really hurts and breaks Chloe's heart. And for me in this series, Chloe is easily, as I mentioned, is one of my top 3 favorite characters in the show. Lex, Chloe, and the other one, Lionel, are my 3 favorite characters in the show. Don't get me wrong, I love Clark and others, but there's just something about these characters. Episode 17, another really interesting episode, Rosetta. Clark goes to the cave, he puts in the key, and he gets downloaded with the knowledge of basically the language and stuff in the cave walls. So he's able to read the symbols now. He's able to understand that the meteor rocks are in fact called kryptonite. So we finally get the official name kryptonite and everything Kryptonian. He ends up getting a message from this mysterious billionaire called Virgil Swan, which ends up giving him a message that was sent from his father, Jor-El. And who plays Virgil Swan? None other than previous, in my opinion, greatest Superman of all time, Christopher Reeves plays the character of Virgil Swan. Great recurring character because we see Virgil Swan come back in season 3 as well. But that's one of my favorite things. Again, to see Christopher Reeves in the show was awesome. And playing little bits and pieces of the John Williams score of Superman was awesome. Which is why Rosetta is another one of my top 5 favorite episodes of this season. Next we have episode 18, Visitor, which is about a boy who thinks he's an alien, but in fact come to find out he's not. He was meteor infected, has the ability to heal, but he ends up having at the end of the episode a total meltdown, breakdown mentally, ends up basically in a coma. Not great. Episode 19, nothing too important. Then we have episode 20, Witness. Was an interesting episode. Episode 21 wasn't too big overall for me personally. Episode 22, Calling, was a good episode. We see definitely things going much and much closer. I take that back, actually. Episode 21, I forgot. It is an episode where Lana at first thinks she's going crazy. She sees this little girl who was her childhood friend, come to find out is a clone with super speed, super strength, but has no knowing or understanding right and wrong. No conscience. She was cloned, engineered by the father of the girl who died as a child and was good childhood friends of Lana. It's interesting as progresses and Clark realizes that Lana is not crazy because he sees, and fun fact, the little girl, the actress who plays the little girl in the episode, ends up playing the young girl in the original Silent Hill movie. Just a fun little fact. That's one thing that caught my attention. When I first saw a trailer of Silent Hill 1, I was like, holy crap, It's a girl from season 2 of Smallville. Anyways, 22, Calling, another interesting episode. We see a Pun Coma back in Rosetta, this archaeologist that was researching the case for Lex, got downloaded with the stuff, but he had like a brain overload. But he ends up coming back to, in episode 22, Calling, he ends up going after, like, Clark. He's able to shoot beams of energy at his hands and tries to kill Clark, because Clark sees a message from also his father, Jor-El, saying that he is to conquer the planet, to rule the weak humans, a inferior race, and things. As time has progressed, though, Jor-El does change as a character throughout time period of the series. In episode 23, Exodus, in which a young doctor throughout the season gets really close to Lex. Lex and her end up getting married in the season finale. We see also Clark tries to destroy the spaceship, succeeds with a kryptonite version key and stuff he steals from Lionel Luthor, but it causes a shockwave and destroys a truck that has Martha and Jonathan in. Martha, in the beginning of the season, somehow was able to get pregnant thanks to healing abilities of the ship, but exploded, created a energy shockwave. She ends up in the hospital and has a miscarriage, and Clark ends up can't take anymore all this sadness and stuff because of how his Jonathan ends up looking at him like he's an alien and stuff. He can't take it anymore, so he takes a red kryptonite ring, puts it on. He ends up leaving, heading towards what we see at the end of the episode, heading towards Metropolis. Also, Lex ends up in an airplane crash because he wakes up on the plane what he believed to be a Bermuda honeymoon, finds his new wife gone, the pilot is gone, and he looks into the cockpit and sees the jet getting ready to crash into the ocean. And that's basically how Season 2 ends off. Overall, I forgot to rate Season 1. I give Season 1 on a score of F to A. I give Season 1 of Smallville, I give it a B+. I think it's a great first season. I give Season 2 a A-. It's a little bit higher for me, definitely, from Season 1. I think it took a lot of good steps forward in helping grow the story arcs, like introducing more stuff about Krypton, of course, introducing the character of Jor-El, and many other aspects also. And it's definitely fascinating. But anyways, that is just a brief synopsis, in my opinion, of Season 2 in Smallville. I'll see you all soon enough, in maybe another month or less, for my review of Season 3 of Smallville. See you then. Same YouTube time, same YouTube channel, and stay safe out there.